I just invested $38,000 in DVC points.
You did what? Imagine believing that a company who has been on the profiteering Autobahn since the 90s has developed a product that serves the consumer more than the company itself. Imagine believing that allaying tens of thousands of dollars, locking into, in some cases, a 50-year contract and having nothing but memories after that contract is a real estate investment. Disney has convinced thousands to do this, and they continue to this day, despite the fact that costs to visit have gone through the roof over the past couple of decades. Disney fanatics show charts, they show spreadsheets, they show carefully selected numbers and confidently declare that Disney Vacation Club is one of the best investments they've ever made. In this video, we're challenging that. Hold on one second. What is that noise in my wall? Oh, are you here again? What are you doing in my wall?
Aw, shucks. Nothing. What you doing, bald guy?
I'm actually talking about you.
I hope you're being a good boy.
I'm always honest. What are you doing here with that measuring tape? Hey, I already told you, you can't turn my house into a resort.
Measuring tape? No. A friend gave me good advice. He said, keep your friends close and your good friends closer.
Yeah, something like that. If you don't mind, I'm going to continue. DVC is a timeshare program that was created by Disney in 1991. It involves you getting into what's called a real estate deal with Disney, wherein you fork out a large initial investment and pay yearly fees to receive points that you can exchange for resort stays. The number of points you own determine the quality of the resort you stay and the length of your stay. These points cover the resort you're staying at, but not a complete vacation. Access to the parks, food, memorabilia are on you. But your payments don't stop there. Every year you fork over maintenance fees to Disney. Your annual dues are not simply maintenance fees. They're your share of the annual condominium association budget for your home resort, allocated on a per-point basis. Disney prepares a budget for each resort every year, then divides it among the owners according to the number of points they own. It's a whole new world, but when you get your bill, don't you dare close your eyes. Now that we understand what DVC is generally, let's get into some real-world examples. And despite my attempts at humor, I'll make a concession and clarify my argument. My argument has never been that DVC hasn't saved some people money and made them happy in the process. My argument is when they're sitting at the table about to sign a contract, they're giving up a whole lot up front and taking the huge burden of risk with such a long-term contract. So if you're following along, Disney has charged you a huge chunk of money, and for that right, you get to pay their maintenance costs in exchange for exchanging points for stays. Let's look at a common example. Disney requires a minimum purchase of 100 points. You're required to purchase 150 if you want a DVC membership card and other perks. It does seem that they always have another carrot to dangle in your face. But never mind, we'll discuss that in a moment. Back to the example. Let's say I want to become a member, and here are my preferences. I want to stay at the Polynesian. This is an older location and is very popular, so I'll grab enough to cover a week. I have to purchase 146 points to stay in July when my kids are out of school for a family of 4. Very common example. I put down $35,478 up front. Closing costs were $969, but Disney at the time that I looked at this was offering an incentive of $900, so I'll go ahead and honor that. On average, each year I'll pay about $1,250 in fees. These fees are required regardless of whether you go to Disney use your points or not. I did a search in July 2027 for the cost of staying at the Polynesian for 7 days, which is what my 146 points could afford. The cost is $5,035. If we subtract my fees from the $5,035, we get $3,785 in savings. Not bad. However, are there alternatives to this? What if you did this instead? You took the huge down payment and invested it in an index fund that generated on average 8 to 10% a year in interest. Now, bear with me here. The overall outcome is not complicated, but understanding how this works can be. I'm going to show you how investing that $35,000 and paying out of pocket for the early years can be beneficial to you instead of locking yourself in a points program. I'll even compare against your lost savings if you had invested in DVC. Now let's put that $35,478 in an index fund. Our goal is to get to the point where you're earning enough interest per year off of your index fund that we can cover what your DVC savings would have been while factoring capital gains taxes on your interest withdrawal. But even if you don't get to that point in a relatively short window compared to break even for Disney points, you can save and still have a pile of cash. We're going to use the Polynesian example above. Year 1, the Polynesian costs $5,035. You as a DVC owner only pay $1,250 in fees. With my plan, you're paying out the full $5,035. So you'd be losing $3,785. But stay with me. Above, you can see what your 35K grows to after a year with the below average 8 to 10% rate of return. Index funds have averaged 10.5% gains for the past 50 years per year. This includes the economic meltdowns of the late 70s and 2008-2009. You leave your money in there. So that you don't think I'm gaming numbers, I have the Polynesian resort rate and fees growing at 4% per year. Now when you look at this chart, you want the 8% and or 10% growth after 15% capital gains tax, meaning what you withdraw, to exceed your DVC savings column. At that point, your interest is making more than what your savings would have covered you for that year. At 8%, your interest per year, even after subtracting the 15% capital gains taxes, surpasses the DVC savings you would have had in year 13. Oh yeah, and you have $96,487 in an account, but your DVC savings would have only been $62,935. Don't forget that we've included the 4% resort increases per year. At 10%, even better, your interest earned after the 15% capital gains taxes surpasses your savings by year 6. Oh, and your original $35,478 investment has grown to $62,851 in just 6 years. DVC would have saved you $25,107. You're also not tied into a long-term contract and are not under pressure to go in years where something occurs personally that makes it to where you can't go on vacation that year. Here is the chart I was referencing. Feel free to pause here and take a look at it to get a better idea of what I was explaining if you didn't quite get it all in the first run.
Hey, bald guy, what are you doing? Ha, 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 ha.
Just talking about ways people can keep their money and not overspend.
Ha, 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 ha. We want people to feel the magic. Magic isn't cheap. Ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, we know.
Hey, I have a joke. Want to hear?
Sure.
Knock, knock. Ha, ha.
Who's there?
Hot dog.
Hot dog who?
Hot dogs are $15 in my park now. Ha,
Oh, dear Lord. Do you think you could give people a break? Maybe a discount once in a while? Moving on. When you think of Disney, you think of bright colors, but they are truly the masters of gray, as in gray areas. They do an amazing job of marketing themselves, but oftentimes things are hiding behind all the glitz. It's no different in DVC. Often going unnoticed is the fact that you're at the mercy of their other costs, even though they aren't a part of your resort deal. You're locked into vacations at a place that's costs have gone up astronomically, not just the resorts. With tickets and food accompanying the rising costs, the likelihood of hitting a threshold where you simply can't afford it anymore increases greatly. We're already at a point where upper middle class families struggle to throw money together to visit regularly at this point. DVC members will often reference ridiculous rack rate prices for resorts as a reason to enroll, comparing what rate they got, but they often fail to engage the question, is any of it worth it mathematically, factoring in risk? Just because a bad deal is better than another bad deal doesn't make it a good deal. With agreements as long as 50 years, no one can predict the future. A disability, having babies, political differences, even a family member simply saying they want to do something else and they're tired of the same trip. These things can drastically affect and even derail the benefits of membership, especially because the margin for gain is so fragile due to the time it takes to actually earn savings. Still don't believe me? Let's look at this analogy. My intent is to separate the Disney emotion from the deal itself because emotion clouds judgment. I firmly believe there's an emotional charge of nostalgia that clouds judgment when people sign these contracts. There's a need for connection, ownership, to be closer to it than the average guest. I know firsthand. I've been there a handful of times in my life. I've had some great memories there. It's wonderful to see my kids sitting at the same table in Epcot, Germany, as I did with my parents as a child, or ride Living with the Land with my father 30 years apart. So I think the best thing to do is separate Disney from the conversation and just speak in a hypothetical that relates to the difference between payment for a subscription or a membership versus yearly ad hoc trips. Here's one. I own a rental house. You rent from me every year. As a matter of fact, you've rented it every year for the past 10 years. You pay me $3,000 each year for a week visit, and you and your family loves it. They have many great memories there, including some of your kids' first steps, and you even look forward to the family photo taken there every year. I approach you with this offer. You pay me $30,000, the equivalent of the next 10 trips up front, and I'll only charge you $750 or 25% of the cost of the house from now through the next 40 years. I'll raise the fee by an inflation number between 3 to 5% per year, but you have to pay that fee regardless of whether you come or not. Now, I could get dirty and tell you that I'm going to fill your refrigerator with food and charge you 3 to 4 times what a normal grocery store would charge, but I'm not even going to go that far. Be honest. Are you taking the deal?
Yes, take that wall out.
What is going on in my living room? Hey, what are you doing?
This is too small for a lobby. How do you expect us to process people quickly with that wall there?
This is my house.
I know. Now you have access to the outdoor bonfire nightly at 8:30 p.m. Hey, space those palm trees properly. Sorry, what did you say? Those statues aren't going to move themselves.
If you made it this far, thank you so much. I'm not an advocate for Disney or protagonists against them. However, I like to research things and determine their usefulness. In this video, we took facts and mixed some humor and a terrible mouse impression to open people's eyes to perhaps having an alternative to DVC points. This is my first video doing this, so please leave feedback as to whether you enjoyed it, hated it, or just to challenge my premise. You can do this by liking, subscribing, and commenting below. I intend making more videos like this related to any number of other subjects. Feel free to email me at ydw@2-silos.com. Thanks for watching.